Oh boy, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. So The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game came out, and as you read by the title, I thought,
What do you mean,
it was alright. We got a lot to talk about in this video, that's for sure, because this is a crazy big and long game, so I'm gonna try to keep it as fast and short and sweet as possible, although I'm not really sure if that's gonna happen. Leading up to this game's release, I was really skeptical about this game because we hadn't seen anything about it for like the 4 years that we had heard of it, until we saw some sort of gameplay trailer doohickey thingy. And even when that gameplay trailer doohickey thingy came out, it still felt like they hadn't really shown anything substantial about the game itself. It's like, oh, look at this, you can build a raft! Because we removed the ice ability from the first game. And then we all got our hands on the game and immediately beat it. Some of us. I cranked through this shit just to make this stupid ass review that you're watching right now. And as a result, what I really want to talk about in this video is basically a review of the story. So this video will contain full spoilers for every single story event that's going on here. Well, maybe not every single story event, or else this video is going to be 3 hours long. But you get the point. If you don't want spoilers, just turn the damn thing off right now. I mean, for Christ's sake. It's on Yuzu emulation. It has been for a month. It's been on the Switch for a couple weeks. Just go away, okay? You still here? Let's start at the start then. So first, our hero wakes up and... wait, wrong game. Goes down beneath Hyrule Castle with Zelda, and they run into, yeah, this abomination thing. Link gets knocked out, his Master Sword is broken, and he says YOLO! And then of course from there, Link finds himself on the Sky Islands and he has to find Zelda. What new? You then get abilities from shrines, which I guess we should talk about that. So the shrines are pretty much exactly the same as they were in the first game. You enter a room, solve a shitty puzzle, except it's not really a puzzle because you can cheese it easily. You get the damn orb, or as they're called, Lights of Blessing or some bullshit in this game, and then you leave. The first 4 shrines on the tutorial area also grant you powers to your arm. The first one that you'll get is the Ultra Hand ability. This allows you to stick objects and shit together and make your own custom vehicles and crap. And it's a complete pain in the ass to use because, well, it's slow. Stuff can't be thrown into the air like the Magnesis could. Also, as a side thing to point out, when you're rotating a piece, you can only rotate it on the Y and X axes. You can't rotate it on the Z, even though it's in a 3D space. So you get the Ultra Hand, and then you keep going around the Sky Island or whatever. Eventually you come across this river, which tests your Ultra Hand abilities. It's pretty straightforward. You just make a penis boat to get to the other side. And then it does other similar stuff to it, like making a minecart, making a zip line, shit like that. You get some other abilities along with this crap as well. You get the Fuse ability, this is a different ability, the Recall ability, which is way cheaper than you may originally anticipate, and the Ascend ability. Hey, finally something that's useful. Then you get your Master Sword randomly taken away, you dick! And then dive off the smeary Sky Islands as you see the game's resolution magically change from 480 to 900p. As you're falling, oh yeah, there's like freaking 10 shrines. Well, I guess we better head over to... So your first order of business is to meet with Purah to see what the hell is happening now to Hyrule ever since the castle rose up into the sky. Long story short, she tells you to go investigate Hyrule Castle, you see Zelda, except it's not Zelda, and then Zelda fucking flies away like magic, and then you report back what you saw, and then you test out some towers. Great, those are back too. So very quickly, it becomes pretty clear that this is not like a completely different progression system and exploration shit compared to the first game. So you got your towers and you got your shrines again. And the shrines can easily be cheesed in this game, even more so than the shrines could in the first game. Like, in this game, literally every single shrine, it seems, that you can do is... What you can do is you can take an object with your Ultra Hand ability that's in the shrine, and then you can put it as far the fuck away as you possibly can, and then raise it up into the air, and then bring it back, use Recall, and ride it all the way over to the end. It's like, does nobody actually test these shrines or puzzles or whatever the hell you want to call them? Do they just like throw them together and be like, oh, look, they're passable and that's fine. Just make it passable. It's a kid's game and then that's it. Good job. And then there are the other 2 types of shrines, which the Test of Strength shrines from the first game have basically been replaced with these. You start with no equipment and you have to pick up crap around the shrine in order to defeat all of the constructs or whatever. And it's like, okay, those are better, but again, they still get pretty boring and repetitive quick. And then there were these Blessing Shrines in the first game as well, and they've made a return in this game technically too, but the things you do to actually unlock the Blessing Shrines are just, oh, you find the shrine underneath a cave. And actually, most of them have the same mission over and over and over again, where you're supposed to bring this green crystal to a shrine pedestal thing, whatever you want to call it, and then it reveals the shrine. The crystal, like, turns into the shrine, and it's like, these have been, like, I don't have anything against these on their own, but, like, these have been replaced with all of the different, like, big side quest shrines and all that. Remember when side quests would reward you with shrines in the first game? They don't do that here. Like, there was a quest in the first game on, like, the runes, on, like, the Thundera runes or whatever it was called, where you had to, like, insert 4 different balls into 4 different pedestals or something of different colors and color code them correctly, and then it would reveal a shrine. That place in this game has absolutely nothing in it other than, like, a Hinox sleeping. It's like, why even have this area? It's completely pointless now. It's just so fucking stupid, and it's... Anyway, you use the tower to fly your ass up into the sky in order to reach Rito Village, which is the first place you're supposed to go to. And that's weird because all of the places that you're supposed to go to for the 4 main temples are also the same goddamn structure. So it's like, what makes this game unique with its own identity and shit and all that? Oh yeah, and by the way, you might run into a memory on your way there to Rito Village, but we're not going to talk about those. Those suck. Yes. You make it to Rito Village, and you see that it's all covered in snow. And then you see Teba, the white bird bitch, and he's like, "Hey, Link, it's been a long time no see. Do you remember my son?" And I'm like, "No." And of course, this stupid child then just flies off completely out of nowhere in order to stop the blizzard, in order to save Rito Village. You then get asked to go follow his little idiot, and of course this entire sequence lasts way too long. When you finally find him on top of a snowy mountain, you realize that he has his bow taken away from him by some flying enemy thing. Long story short, you get his bow back, and then he fights along your side. After you get his bow back, you hear some weird voice off in the distance or something that says something like, "Come to me," and it's like, yeah, that's not disturbing at all. You of course then have to follow the voice, and you do so in this giant platforming sequence basically in the sky. And the sequence itself is great. It's very long and very fun. In order to traverse it, you have to bounce on all of these pirate ship things or whatever that send you flying up into the air, which is super cool. And sometimes you have to use ascend in creative ways, so it does ask some legitimate brain power from you. And even though it is long, it does have some checkpoints that you can warp to, which are being used as shrines throughout the entire platforming. Could have made them anything else, Nintendo. When you finally get to the temple and figure out what you're supposed to do to solve it, you notice that, oh no. You then fight a boss, which is just a clone of a Wind Waker boss, except it's good. The fight itself is so much more refreshing than the Blights from Breath of the Wild. I gotta give credit where it's due, and the music is great. It's no Sonic Frontiers, but I enjoyed it. The boss itself has multiple ways to defeat it. You could either wait for it to open up each of its weak spots and then attack from above, the coward's way out, or you could go underneath him and beat the boss in like a minute, like I did. After that easy yet epic battle is where problems begin to arise again. You collect a heart container and a tear after doing that, and then this long-ass cutscene plays. It explains the imprisoning war, and then you realize that, oh shit, yeah, this cutscene is going to play to us, the player, all 4 times. And this is where the story really starts to lose its pacing. It all starts to play out similarly to how Breath of the Wild did, and all the bosses in the temples are too easy. The hardest boss for sure is the Queen Gibdo boss, but even that kind of felt like a gimme in terms of how they presented it. By the time I got to the boss, I already knew how to defeat it, and not because I'm saying I looked it up or am smarter than everyone else. It's because they literally show you everything that you need to know in order to defeat it before you reach the temple. The whole Gerudo storyline in the game starts by showing you that Gibdos are invading Gerudo Town, and then it's up to you to stop them by destroying all of their hives with lightning. As you do this, you realize, oh, this is how you easily get rid of them first. Go for the hive, and then kill them afterwards. Which is basically what you do in the second phase of the fight. And then right before you're about to enter the temple, you meet the Queen Gibdo just outside of it. And then you find out that you have to hit it with lightning twice to strike it. The entire fight that happens next inside the temple is revolved around those same 2 tactics. This leads to you getting another fucking tear, and then you move on. I'm sure you can assume what happens in the other temples, so I'm not going to recap the other 2. Only about half of these 4 temples even focus on the sky at all. Speaking of the sky, they put way too much marketing into that for advertising this game. The stuff in the sky looks nice for 600p, but it's still overly simplified to the point where it's just way too predictable as to what you're going to find up there. Most of the Sky Islands consist of this layout of there being a shrine on one side, these little capsule zone-eye things on the other side, and then a rotator in the very middle of the island with a thing to launch you into the air. Sometimes you'll come across a Death Star looking thing, which has a puzzle that reveals a shrine, or you'll find a boss that's made out of squares. Such character. Once you're done exploring the Sky Islands within a matter of minutes, you can dive all the way down into... What the fuck? Oh god! This place is known as the Depths, and it is the exact same size as the actual surface area. It's got dangerous enemies, its own currency, and through exploration you can find some of the best gear in the entire game. And that's it. Don't get me wrong, it's a cool idea, but like with the Sky, you gotta do more with it, especially after 6 years. There's this stuff called gloom that you can accidentally step in, which is pretty common in the depths, and when you step in it, it takes away one of your hearts. Forever. Except it doesn't. The light routes to refill your hearts after they got taken away from you are in the exact same locations as the shrines are on the surface area. And the depths is not even really that new of geography, it's just the surface area but inverted. Meaning that if there's a mountain on the surface, well then it's going to be a big giant crater-like thing in the depths. The enemies are more dangerous down here, but that's only because of the permanent heart taken away thing. It's not like they play differently at all. None of the enemies on the surface have really been tweaked to be any harder either. It's pretty clear that the reason most people are finding the enemies harder in this game than the first game is because all the Divine Beast abilities were taken away. In Breath of the Wild, you had something called Mipha's Grace, which would revive Link upon death to more than full health. But that free reviving system is now taken away from you. Thanks, Obama. In this game, after you finish a temple, the character who was fighting along your side within said temple can then grant you their abilities whenever you want them to. These abilities are nowhere near as useful and clearly weren't designed for overworld exploration though. They're also arguably the reason a lot of the overworld bosses play the same once again as well, since all you need to do is sit there, snipe them with an arrow until they fall asleep, and then run over to jack them up until they awake. Even then, the only real new overworld boss is the Gleeok dragon guy. The fight starts off by him drawing his elemental breath towards you, so just, run away from that for a solid 20 seconds. Then you gotta snipe all 3 of his heads and he'll fall asleep, and then you know what to do from there. After that happens, it'll breathe balls of whatever element it's doing. Again, run away from those and then snipe it so it'll fall asleep. The rest of the fight pretty much just consists of those same 2 things over and over and over again, except they move faster as the fight goes on. When he's about 70% dead or whatever, then all 3 heads will shoot a giant fireball, electric ball, ice ball, whatever the hell elemental you're fighting, and that's about as different as the fight gets. Speaking of bosses, let's continue with the story now. So once you have all 4 tiers, Purah wants you to go up to the top of Hyrule Castle, since that's where quote-unquote Zelda is, so that you can fight Ganondorf. You go on this wild goose chase following Zelda and defeating hordes of enemies over and 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 over until you reach the top of the castle, and then Ganondorf appears and reveals that, oh boy, Zelda's a puppet. Yeah, we didn't know that. Zelda's been a puppet the whole time. And then Ganondorf whips out like 50,000 Dark Ganons or whatever. I think Phantom Ganondorfs are what they're called. Which again, despite how many there are, it's not really all that hard. You know how you defeat them? Here, I'll tell you. Arrow, 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 arrow. Oh yeah, you might want to pause to heal yourself. Arrow, arrow, dead. Arrow, 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 arrow. Ganondorf then plays a cutscene after you defeat his troops, and you may or may not have already seen it based on if you've gotten the memories, but whatever. Everybody agrees that at this point Ganondorf is weak, and it would probably be best to find him as soon as possible and stop him now. After all, that's why he fled and didn't choose to fight you one-on-one, because he's not fully powerful or whatever. So at this point in the game, you're thinking, alright, great. Well, I think I got a pretty good idea of where he is. We just fought him on top of Hyrule Castle. Where is he? That's right. Probably in the depths below Hyrule Castle. We're here anyway. Great. Awesome. Let's go. No, that's not what the game wants you to do, YouTube people. That's not what it wants you to do at all. That should be what you do. It should be, but instead, but no. You have to go back to the lookout tower where Purah is, and then everybody notices that, wait, there's actually one more tier out there. And this is the part in the story where it was already struggling to finish the marathon, but this is the part where it just completely throws its structure out the fucking window and just goes on for way, way longer than it needs to, and it doesn't even make any sense. So it's just, okay. I am going to take some time and describe this event, what happens, what goes on, okay? This is basically the twist, I guess, so big spoiler. Even though I already said what it is, we gotta find the 5th tier. So, okay. No distractions about the game itself. I'm just gonna rant and describe how the story goes. I'm not making this up. I wish I was, but I'm not. It's so sloppy. Okay, here we go. So, you have to find the 5th tier in some sort of ruins, and you realize that ruins is in Kakariko Village. It's like, how would you know that in the first place? And then you're prohibited from entering that because Zelda, but it was actually the puppet Zelda, told you that you couldn't go in. She told that to some guys in Kakariko Village or whatever, and now you have to tell them, oh, the Zelda was a fake or whatever. So it's like Ganon knew about the other tier, or Ganondorf, whatever, and so then you have to go into the ruins after that, and you have to take pictures of these texts inside the ruins that are translated into Zonai, and translate them back, because now in Kakariko Village there's apparently this guy who's studying Zonai and can read it. And if you don't have the goddamn fucking camera to take the picture, you have to do that entire other main side quest, which is at the lookout. Oh my god, which is just at the lookout landing, whatever thing. It's a quest with Robbie where you have to go into the depths in order to get the camera feature to work again, because it's not working on your Purapad, and just it gets worse. It gets so much worse. So anyway, you do that entire quest, okay, completely backtracked. You get your fucking camera, and then you take a picture of the thing, and then he's like, okay, now we have to go like all the way down to the far area of the map, which you may have not even explored yet. And it's just, it's like, I don't know these stupid dudes or whatever, and now I'm following them into this, like, ruins area or something, with all of these dragon statues and temples and crap. And then there's this big confusing puzzle, which requires you to get, like, a whole armor set lying around within it. And then you have to put a Zonai charge in a specific spot to clear up some stormy clouds in the sky or something that are hiding sky islands. And then after that, the game, with no explanation, expects you to just dip. Like, it expects you to just completely ditch the guys all of a sudden and go up into the sky to figure out what's going up there yourself with no real clues. It just kind of lets go of your hand entirely. And this platforming challenge up in the sky is obviously way harder or whatever than all the other ones have been so far. So you finally reach the end of it and you're like, okay, this has to be probably where the temple is or whatever. So finally, let's get this 5th tier and get out of here, because this story is going on for way too long now. But of course, you reach the end of it, and it just has a fucking shrine there, and then it has like a treasure chest or something, and then it has this robotic Zonai thing that's just a pair of eyes. It looks like goggles or something like that, and you're like, okay.
Link, Zelda's chosen protector.
Am I supposed to wear this? Why is this even here? And you're expected to follow a light that it's pointing into a cave, as if it's, you know, another crystal shrine or something, and it's like, don't let this be another shrine like that, just with a different quote-unquote twist. And then you ride it down, and then you're on this giant elevator outside of the cave or whatever, and you go down, and look at that, you're back in the depths. And then you connect that head goggle-looking thing to a pedestal that's right in front of you, and then there are 4 other body parts that the robot asks you to get for it inside the depths, and it's like the length of an actual temple puzzle or something like that, and it just goes on and on and on and on with no context. There's no reason for this to be in here.
Zelda's chosen protector.
Stop calling me that. And so when you finally do that, then you're supposed to ride the robot like over to the temple or something, and then that's where the temple actually is. Thankfully, you don't have to solve the puzzle or whatever when you finally get there, because the robot moves slow as fuck. And then there's this other robot boss battle thing where it's like this big boxing arena or something, and you have to launch it into electric fences, and you're just like, what's happening? Who decided this was a good idea? I don't care! I just don't get it. It's just like this crazy... It didn't make sense already to be in the game. The game was already set to wrap up. Just go and defeat Ganondorf already. And it's just... It could have been gone. All of it. It could have been just completely gone. You chop off this entire confusing part and you chop off the repeated memories from when you get the tears in the 4 temples before this 5th temple. And there you go. You got a nice, clean, like maybe 30-hour long casual playthrough of a sequel game. But instead, it's just a complete... It's a mess. It's just such a confusing mess. And sure, by the end of it, it finally ties back around, but it's like, come on, this was straight up not needed just to explain and show us the cutscene of, oh my god, of Rauru sacrificing himself to put Ganon into slumber or whatever. It's like, that could have just been a memory. That could have been a memory, and the event was already told to us like crazy. It's just like, that's not it. It's not the end. Not the end, okay? It's not the end. So you go back to Lookout Landing and you see Purah again, and she tells you, oh wow, way to go, you got the 5th stone. I'm like, yeah bitch, let's go kill Ganondorf now. But of course that's not what the game wants you to do, because why would the game want you to finish it, you know? So you have to then go to Korok Forest, or the Great Deku Tree or whatever is, and talk to him in order to track down the Master Sword before you fight Ganondorf. It's more of a requirement in the story this time around for some reason. Again, just to pad out the length. You go to the Lost Woods and it keeps blocking you off, and then you realize, oh shit, you have to go underground into the depths in order to pop up from above where Korok Forest is. Yeah, okay. And then you get there and everybody is completely silent. No one's talking and the Great Deku Tree is sick with gloom. You go back down into the depths that's located inside the Great Deku Tree and you have to defeat... Yeah. Again, arrow, 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 arrow. You defeat him, and then you talk to the Great Deku Tree, and he says, oh, here's where the Master Sword is, it's somewhere way up in the sky. And he pinpoints it on your map, and you realize that it's starting to move and circle around the tutorial area where you started. You then have to follow it and come to realize that it's actually on top of a dragon's head. However, as you try to grab it, you notice that your stamina decreases. So if you don't have 2 full wheels of stamina at this point, well, yeah, too bad. If you do, then you strangle his head to get the sword. So you go beneath Hyrule Castle, and of course there's a light route right there, which that's convenient enough. And then you have to go through this huge slew of enemies before you even get to the battle arena at the end. And it's like, yeah, great, that's very nice because they take away your hearts permanently. Once you reach the end, you have to fight like 5 different waves of enemies, which could have been the length of the boss fight themselves, but whatever. And then you fight Ganondorf, and oh my god. Is this the final boss or a combat tutorial? He is so easy, and the fight is so long, and it is just stupid because they try to make up for the difficulty by being like, oh ho ho ho, you can't get your hearts back though when you get hit, even though you can with certain recipes. Then he transforms into his full form of Ganondorf, which is just the same thing. And then it becomes a one-on-one fight again after you arrow a bunch of other ones. And then it becomes a slightly harder version of the tutorial that you just did, which again is not anything super hard. It just takes long. Then he breaks and swallows his own tear and turns into a dragon. You then ride the dragon that you got the Master Sword from in order to defeat him. He has 5 weak points, and it's about as easy as the Dark Beast Ganon from the first game. And then you win. Link dives off the head of the light dragon thing, and then the dragon, for whatever reason, turns into Zelda. I guess apparently that was Zelda the whole time. Again, no context, who knows. And then you play a sequence where you dive down and then catch Zelda for real this time. Thank God Link doesn't miss. And then you both dive into the water. And then Zelda is so excited that you defeated the Demon King, and it's so cringe, and she doesn't even react to the fact that her home is still floating in the sky, even though all the gloom is gone from holding it up. And so, then we just have to rush ourselves to an ending for some reason because of that. And then the game fades away as you see Hyrule Castle continue to magically float into this otherwise nice clear blue sky. That's the Zelda game that I just played. That's the Zelda game that I just played. That's it. That's how it ended. Alright, let's actually talk about some gameplay now. So as of the time of recording this, I've played the game for about 70 to 80 hours total.
It's like $1 an hour.
I've gotten over 100 shrines, a few Korok seeds, because who really cares for those, and I've explored as much of the sky, surface, and depths as I pretty much could. I've already touched on the shrines, sky, and depths and all that, so for now let's talk about a new gameplay aspect, the building. Leading up to the game's release, it seems that the building was like a new big selling point that they were trying to get at. In this game, you could build pretty much anything you want to out of the stuff within the world, it seemed. Nintendo themselves obviously showed some pretty simple examples, like just making a boat, or a flying hovercraft or something, but the structures that you can actually build can obviously get pretty insane, to say the least. With that said though, I don't feel like the game was able to take into account just how creative you could get with these though. Because whenever you try to build something unique, it almost always fails because the physics are so outdated. Your best bet is to just build a simple plane or a car because the battery system on these things suck. In order to upgrade your battery, you have to collect these doohickeys in the depths known as the crystallized charges or something. The problem is that even just 100 of these will only upgrade 1/3 of a battery, which makes these vehicles very inefficient overall. Why would I want to build a plane to get from one side to another only to have the battery die out if I could just use a rocket and then paraglide over and take like 3 times as long because the stamina is so easy to upgrade? This inconvenience applies to the ground as well. There are several areas in Hyrule, usually outside of towns and stables, that have all these wooden planks and wheels to build a car. But no matter what you do, the car always moves slowly, and you want to use as little Zonai devices as you can because the more you use, the faster your battery is going to drain. It's often just a better bet to get to higher ground and paraglide or run to your destination instead. This is especially true when Link can't use any of his abilities like climbing or attacking when driving a car. When you're using a control stick, you can't whip out your sword and drive with one hand, unlike when you ride a horse where you can attack while still mounted on it. There have been so many times where I'm trying to get somewhere with a vehicle, and I end up running out of battery constantly, or the vehicle just doesn't want to go up the place I want to go to, or my creation overall just fails and does nothing. Most create and survival games are about thinking about what you want to do and then having that thing work in the way you intended to, right? It's why games like Minecraft are such a hit and require imaginative mindsets in order to do well in them. When you play Tears, you see that Breath of the Wild's structure was not originally built to intend for you to play it this way. I'm not even talking about just driving up the huge mountains. Sometimes it's hard to even get up small inclines on the surface. I can't believe I'm saying this, but older games like GTA 5 and Fortnite have better off-road vehicle controls than Tears does. And that's just so bizarre. By the way, here's a fun fact. You technically can't even save the vehicles that you create. There's an auto-build ability which you unlock early on in the game, but you still need the parts in order to build said vehicle, and if you don't have them, then you have to use Zonite, which is also found in the depths, in order to take out new devices that you don't have to build the vehicle, which also requires way more Zonite than you can find comfortably, just like the crystallized charges. Fun stuff. Eventually I stopped building vehicles altogether unless I needed like a hot air balloon or some shit to get some verticality, and usually then I would just farm for rockets instead. It's not a bad idea in concept, but it's executed very poorly when it comes to exploring the world. But how about exploring that world then? Well, as I said before, a lot of stuff about the world is pretty much the same in the sense that you're collecting shrines and Korok seeds and doing side quests and stuff. Some of the interesting looking stuff that has been changed in the geography of the world, like giant whirlpools and stuff, still just have a shrine in them at the end. Same when you fall down a cave. Now there are some things in the world that have been changed for the better though. Probably most notably is that going to the Great Plateau, you'll realize it's way more dangerous now than it was in the first game. If you go back to the Shrine of Resurrection, oh, there's a Yiga clan there. If you go to the old man's house, oh yeah, there's another Yiga clan there. If you go to the old man's campfire, oh, there's a Zelda there. That's not Zelda. It can be rather frustrating to explore the world if it's just all enemy ambushes like this, and at some points early on in the game when I wasn't leveled up, it actually incentivized me not to explore much of the world. I mean, come on, the place where you used to get your Hylian shield is now bombarded by the hands of absolute hell. As I started to proceed through the story mode though and get stronger, I started to appreciate these areas more, even if they were still challenging. The first game lacked a bunch of difficulty because after every divine beast you would do, you would get this power that would just be way too strong. All of these have now been replaced with other characters now that have their own abilities instead of you just carrying all their abilities at once. They're useful and they fight along your side, but they never feel OP. What the hell did she do to your arm? Along with these partners, the main difficulty compromise is the ability to fuse any object to any weapon and make it stronger. This was advertised quite a bit before the game was released, and it was also confirmed that these would be a solution to essentially repair a weapon. If your weapon was badly damaged, you could fuse it to another object and it would basically repair your weapon for you and give you a stronger one instead. Except in the final version it doesn't do that. Why? In terms of bow and arrows, every single arrow has just been replaced with a regular arrow, meaning there are no fire, ice, or electric arrows that you can go buy. And certainly no ancient arrows, the guardians are gone. In order to get these kind of better arrows, you now have to fuse objects to them that are in your inventory. Like you can fuse an ice or a fire fruit in order to make it a fire or ice arrow. But you can also do some other more interesting stuff like fuse a Keese eyeball to an arrow to make it a homing arrow, or fuse a flower from the depths onto an arrow in order to make the enemies attack each other. It's a lot of experimentation, but it makes the combat even more choppy and unsatisfying because in order to do this, you have to fuse every single individual arrow one at a time with whatever item you want. So if you want a fire arrow, fuse a fire fruit onto it and launch it. And then do it again. Fuse a fire fruit onto it and launch it. And again. And again. And again. Simple quality of life improvements could have easily fixed this. We already have the ability to hold items in our inventory and then place them for later. Why don't we hold up to 5 items in our inventory and then switch to an arrow and then hold 5 arrows along with those? That way we could have like 5 different fire fruit arrows in our inventory instead of having to fuse each one by one. My problem with this system is that it also isn't all that unique, nor does it really encourage creativity. A lot of stuff that you fuse to the arrow won't really do anything, it'll just make the arrow stronger. Same with the fuse ability to certain weapons. If you fuse something like a moblin horn onto a weapon, it won't actually make the entire weapon more spiky, or recraft it in any sort of way. The weapon also doesn't play differently now that it's technically stronger and heavier. It just plays like any other normal weapon and it looks like you're swinging a prickly sausage on a stick. And shields, what the hell were the point of fusing these? I tried fusing a fan to my shield and then shield surfing to see if I could fly up into the air slowly with the fan as I was surfing, but fuck me, man. And of course doing the same thing after fusing a bomb doesn't hurt you. It's pretty clear that the development team wanted to make the fuse ability beneficial in order to beat the game, because there are pretty much no strong weapons in the game anymore whatsoever. Interestingly though, you can earn unique weapons now just by doing certain side quests. If you do the Mother Goddess tipped over in the Forgotten Temple whatever side quest, she eventually rewards you with the Sky Sword or something like that. Wow, can't wait for that to break within 15 swings. But the sword itself is still not powerful on its own, even though it's probably meant to be used that way to some degree. Most other side quests within the game don't give you anything all that interesting in terms of rewards either. The quests themselves are greatly improved because there are some side adventure logs or whatever you want to call them in the game. They take a significant amount of time, but still don't pay off though. In the Gerudo region, you have to deliver 8 different balls or whatever to a pedestal, and then carry another ball all the way down into the desert. And then by the end of it, you just get a fucking diamond at the end. They're practically common in this game. The quest of the statue at the Great Plateau requires you to bring 3 metallic eyeballs down into the depths and put them all inside a pose boy in order to revive him. And your reward is just another heart container or a stamina vessel for free. Thanks, game. Even the Master Koga fight in the depths that keeps going on forever and ever and ever just rewards you with crystallized charges every single time and never offers anything original. Even if you approach him with the Yiga Clan armor set that you got earlier, he'll still recognize you and you still gotta fight him. The Yiga Clan armor set is pretty easy to get. You gotta defeat 3 different Yiga clans in different locations. One is at the old man's house, another is at the lab in the far corner of the map, and one was in a cave. I forget where it was. After you get all of these sets though, you can then enter the Yiga's hideout. You were able to sneak into this place pretty easily in the first game, but it seems like they had upped their security since then. And instead of fighting the Yiga, you can talk to them as they are actually programmed to be NPCs, I suppose. If you go up to a certain one in the center of the hideout, he'll offer you some side quest challenges, which is basically just defeat a couple different Yigas, and it's super easy. After you do 2 rounds of that, Oh? I get to wield the power that the giant Yigas have? It won't run out, doesn't have a cooldown, and is something that is actually unique for once? Holy shit, after 8 years Nintendo finally made a video game. This is what the side quest needed more of. It's not even useful, it's just cool. The Gerudo even becomes scared of you when you wear this. And if you go into Gerudo Town, you immediately get thrown in jail and have to escape. All on top of this earthquake attack that we totally should just be able to control ourselves, but damn! What a unique achievement! Too bad the third reward in the same quest sucks. I don't know what the point of this is, man. If I wanted to just not get struck by lightning, just unequip all your metal equipment. They should have combined quests together and used this to complete another quest. If you try to get up towards the fire dragon in this game, all of a sudden he's now too hot and you have to equip certain gear in order to stay on him. But the ice and the electric dragons are not like that. What if there was a new ability that could prevent you from being frozen that you have to find in order to ride the ice dragon? Or you have to wear this helm in order to protect yourself from the lightning dragon as you ride it. And that's how you get all the claws in order to free the mother goddess. And give me a better reward than this goddamn sword, Jesus Christ. It feels like even this fix in the game doesn't come without its shortcomings. And honestly, that's really how I feel about the entire game. Tears of the Kingdom took Breath of the Wild and made it feel like a decent game at best, instead of just an open sandbox with nothing in it. I don't think the game is terrible, at all, by any means. But no matter where I look, when I consider that this took 6 years to make, it's very obvious. Trouble in development was had, and corners were cut. The adventures are unique, but don't have good rewards. The sky is vast, but lacks substance. The depths is a new map, but isn't the main focus. Fusing materials to weapons makes them stronger, but no matter what, they're eventually still gonna break. The surface is revamped, but still reused. Vehicles are a fun idea, but need optimization. The story is existent, but jumbled and terrible. The game is huge and new, but feels like an expansion. It's advertised to be modern, but feels like an Xbox 360 quality game because it's running on a tablet instead of a real console. Breath of the Wild 3 could be a genuinely really great game if they actually fixed, not disguised or improved, fixed all of the problems that plagued these first two games for me. And the story was a hard miss for me. The reason I talked about it for so long is because they were teasing the shit out of this story. Breath of the Wild didn't even have a story, arguably, it was just a backstory with memories and crap. And this story to me just felt confused. And I like twisted stories in my Nintendo games as much as the next guy. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, for example, is one of my favorite games of all time. And if you told that story to the average modern Nintendo fan who has never heard of it, they'd think that you're coming up with some sort of shitty fanfic. Other games like Metroid Prime also do great with immersion. Sure, some stuff to you isn't fully explained in that game, but that's what makes it all the more interesting. Something that I didn't feel with Breath of the Wild's emptiness. But when you put 2 and 2 together, to me, that just resembles a mess in story writing. And I didn't have high expectations for this story like I'm sure many other people did. For Christ's sake, I didn't go into this game expecting the story to be Hyrule's moving castle. I just went in expecting it to be, yeah, it's a structured story that works. Everything from Zelda being revealed to be a puppet too early, to the unnecessary extra spirit temple, to the dragon's tears, nothing really worked. I made this video to critique this game and shed light on these problems. If you love this game and you absolutely adore the story and it felt like you were playing a Ghibli movie while you were exploring it, that is awesome. But personally, I think this solidified something for me. Modern Nintendo just doesn't impress me. When your free content updates are new modes that are actually just tweaks of old modes and add absolutely nothing to the game, when the best game that you have to release this year is actually over 20 years old, when you make a sequel that feels like it should have taken half the time that it actually did to make, then I'm sorry, I just can't keep my hopes up anymore. This game spent 6 years in the oven, and so much of it came out half-baked. I'll still try to be as optimistic as I can going forward. We still don't know what Nintendo has up their sleeve for the second half of this year. There's no way they're just done after Pikmin 4, right? And other games out there, such as the surprises that were announced at the Summer Games Fest, seem great. And hey, who knows? Maybe even the next generation of Nintendo will finally, after so many years, get a real Nintendo game. That's also great. Guys, thank you so much for watching my longest video ever made. Oh boy, this has been a long time coming now. It's funny, I beat the game like maybe a week, if even, after it came out. I just cranked through and beat the whole thing so I could do this review. I'm like, I gotta do a review on this game, and now it's like almost a whole month later after that. I'm finally getting it done. Oh boy. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about Tears of the Kingdom. If you agree, if you disagree. I tried to make this video as fun and fast-paced as I could so it could be at least entertaining. It's also been very nice for me to make this video as well because it gives me a break of all the Sonic requests that I get on my first channel, Gamer Dude, shameless plug. I'm sure everybody over there is pissed at me just being frustrated with those requests and not taking them, so maybe I better get on with that bullshit. Anyway, again, thanks for watching until the end. Sorry that I shat on your favorite game of all time. And as always, subscribe for whatever may come next.